I think Jason stole my notes for the sermon today, but that's okay. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers. I hope it is a good day. I hope you get a little bit of rest at least. If you're anything like me, chances of that are slim and none, but that's okay. I want you to think back about the different dreams, about the different desires that you've had since you were small until the time that we're at now. I want you to think about what you wanted, what you desired, and what your goals were as you grew up and how that changed. I remember when I was younger, elementary, junior high, my big dream, my big desire was to have a Super Nintendo. Kid you not. Wanted one so bad. I used to pick up my best friend on the way to school. We'd ride our bikes together. I'd always get there 30, 45 minutes early so we could play on his. When I got into high school, into college, I wanted, a hot girl, a hot girlfriend, we could go out and do stuff. I could show her off and that kind of thing. I wanted a little bit nicer car. And my first car, my mom is laughing. She knows what's coming. My first car was an 85-ish Astro van. It leaked when it rained. So we had to pull the carpet out, so we just had a metal floor. The dash blinked when I turned on the blinker going right. It would keep going if I pulled the key out of the ignition, which that was fun to scare people. Hey, hold this. But I did at some point want a nicer car. We had fun with it. We'd pile 12 people in and go wherever we wanted. People sliding around in the back on the metal floor. But I did want a nicer car eventually, and so as I got older, these dreams, these desires continued to change, continued to evolve into something new, something different. I wanted a good job. I'm at the point now where I want a well-maintained home, a wonderful family. I really want free time. It's one of my dreams and desires, have a little bit of free time. But I've realized that as I've gotten older, I have achieved most of these dreams. I have a Super Nintendo. It is in my basement. I play it weekly. Weekly. Not hourly, weekly. One of our cars is a nice car. My truck is okay. It's got some issues though. We just, as you know, we just moved into our new home. We love it. We have a great home. I have a beautiful wife. I have a great family. I've achieved these things. And so the question that I need to ask, and I ask, believe me, I ask myself at least as much as I ask you, is what is your dream now? What drives it? What motivates you to get up in the morning? What gives you the ambition to do what you were doing? What pushes you forwards when things get tough? When that person is just driving you crazy, but you still got to do what you got to do. What pushes you through that? When money's tight or things are hard or you're just exhausted again. Webster's Dictionary defines the American dream as an American social ideal that stresses equality. That part sounds great. That part's good, right? I think we can all agree that the goal of the founders to have a place where a person's ability and work ethic and drive can take them wherever they want. That's a good goal, right? Regardless of age or race or sex or anything else. But it's the second part of the definition that concerns me. Because that definition continues, an American social ideal that stresses equality and especially material prosperity. Also, the prosperity or life that is the realization of this ideal. I want to be very clear before we go any farther, because I do not want to be misunderstood. There's nothing wrong with good things. There's nothing wrong with having good things. There's nothing wrong with wanting good things. God blessed David materially. When he asks Solomon what he wants and Solomon asks for wisdom, God doesn't say, okay, I'll give you wisdom and nothing else. He also offers wealth, riches, glory, fame, honor. There's nothing wrong with these things. But it does become a problem when that becomes the driving force in our lives. If our driving force, if our motivation is stuff and more stuff, then we have encountered a major problem in our walk with God. See, good things are good, but they are only good when they are put in their rightful place under God. I've quoted another preacher several times, but I continue to repeat it, that good things are good, except when they become a God thing, then they're bad. When a good thing becomes a God thing, it becomes a bad thing. And as Christians, as those who are Christ followers, it is far past time for us, it is far past time for me to wake up and let go of Webster's definition of the American dream. At least that second part. In Mark chapter 10, we read about the rich young ruler who comes to Jesus. Jason read it earlier when he was talking. Like I said, I think he stole my notes. But I want us to look at it a little bit closer. In verse 17 of Mark 10, we read, "Now as Jesus was going out on the road, one came running, knelt before him, and asked him, 'Good teacher, what shall I do that I may inherit eternal life?'" Notice that this guy didn't come with pomp or circumstance. This guy came running. He was excited to meet Jesus, the teacher. He came and he kneels before him. This is not a dignified position for a rich young ruler. He knows that Jesus has the answer, and he wants the answer. He is hungry for it. And so Jesus said to him in verse 18, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but one, that is God. You know the commandments. Do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not bear false witness, do not defraud, honor your father and mother." And he answered and said to him, "Teacher, all these things I have kept from my youth." This is the man who is devout as far as we can see. But he wants, as Jason said, more. And so Jesus, looking at him, loved him. Loved him. And said to him, "One thing you lack. Go your way, sell whatever you have, and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come, take up the cross, and follow me." But he was sad at this word and went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. See, it's easy for us today to see his problem, right? Oh, well, he was too attached to his stuff. He couldn't give it up. He went away sorrowful. Now I personally hope that somewhere down the line he woke up. But we're not given any indication of that. But I do have to ask, what if we rightly put ourselves in the position of this man? Could we do it? Would we do it? And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that God is telling every single person here that you should all sell your houses, sell everything you have, and go live in a trailer. But what if God did call you to do that? I know people who are extremely wealthy and extremely generous. I know people who are extremely wealthy who, if they did believe that God told them to sell everything and go live in a trailer and work from there, they'd do it. But I also know those who would not. See, it's very easy to recognize the issue in someone else, right? It's a little bit harder when I'm asking myself, is this where I need to be going? So I do not consider myself poor. I also do not consider myself rich. I don't look at my bank account and say, whoa, I'm making it. We're doing fine. We're doing fine. But I don't look at it and go, man, I'm going to do whatever I want today. We sit pretty normal. We sit pretty normal pretty average as far as life in America is concerned. But compared to the vast majority of people living on this planet, I am fabulously wealthy. Compared to the vast majority of people in this world today, we are all fabulously wealthy. When we look at a world that lives on between $2 to $5 a day, if they're doing well, that's lunch for me. I go to McDonald's. Don't judge me. I go to McDonald's. And I can get a McDouble Mighty Kids meal. Yes, you heard me right. Mighty Kids meal for $4.67. Don't judge me. I like them, okay? I can go there for what I consider to be a cheap lunch. $4 and change. Not that bad. That's a day of life. A pretty good day of life. For a lot of people in our world today. Make no mistake, we are the rich young rulers. We are the rich of this world. And we need to recognize that so that we can follow God as He calls, so that we can follow God as He plans. In Matthew chapter 6, starting in verse 19, Christ says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." In 1 Timothy, Paul writes in chapter 6, starting in verse 17, "Command," not suggest, command, "those who are rich in this present age not to be haughty, nor to trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who gives us richly all things to enjoy. Let them do good, that they may be rich in good works, ready to give, willing to share, storing up for themselves a good foundation for the time to come, that they may lay hold on eternal life. If you remember in the beginning, I said, good things are good. And I do consider myself extremely, incredibly, unbearably blessed by God to have the wonderful things that He allows me to have. But it's not mine. And what you have is not yours. And Paul gives us the key to what we're doing. He gives the key to the rich. How we live for God, what that looks like, what that means. And it's a very simple command. When he says, let them do good that they may be rich in good works, ready to give, willing to share. Because that's what builds our foundation for God. We cannot lay up treasures for ourselves, trusting that they'll be there forever. We read where moth doesn't destroy, where rust doesn't destroy. Oh, well, my bank account's all digital. I don't have to worry about that. Until a couple years ago when someone used my Social Security number to file taxes under my name. I have LifeLock now. That was kind of spooky. But it should act as a reminder to me that thieves still do break in and steal. Moth does destroy, rust does destroy. And if that is what I am trusting in, I've got a big problem. You see, if I trust in my stuff, by calling it my stuff, that's what gets burned away when Christ comes. When He tears open the sky, it's gone. And it's meaningless. Over in James, chapter 1, starting in verse 9. He says, let the lowly brother glory in his exaltation, but the rich in his humiliation, because as a flower of the field he will pass away. For no sooner has the sun risen with a burning heat than it withers away the grass. Its flower falls, and its beautiful appearance perishes. So the rich man also will fade away in his pursuits. And so he says, let the rich man glory in his humiliation. We don't think of ourselves as being humiliated, right? But as Christ said, the last will be first and the first will be last. So let us glory not in our things, not in our bank accounts, not in our houses or cars. Let us not try and build a foundation for God with those. Because remember, when the sun rises, it burns and falls. When the sun comes, it's meaningless. And so our glory is not in our things, but our glory is in God. Our glory is in the service, in our service to the King. You see, there's no reason to feel bad about treasure. There's no reason to feel bad about having wealth. There's no reason to feel badly about having nice things. We have many people out there who say, oh, well, you're rich. You should feel bad about that. No, you shouldn't. You should feel blessed that you can glorify God with so much. We should feel blessed and ecstatic that God has given us such great things and such great amounts of things that we can serve Him like that. See, it requires our perspective to be correct. Because when our perspective is correct, then we can behave accordingly. We can follow accordingly. Excuse me. I used to have this irritation with Dave Ramsey's new multi-million-dollar house or whatever. Because it's big and opulent and great and all these things. I was like, you know what? He has no business doing that. And that was a personal kind of heart problem thing. Excuse me. Until I did a little bit of research and found out just exactly what all they use that house for. For raising money for charity, for getting people together, for bringing people in so that they can help more people. It required a perspective change. See, we live in a culture that has become consumerist. There's a difference between capitalism and consumerism. Whereas capitalism says, oh, well, you should be able to make and sell and grow as you can, consumerism says, get more, get more, get more, get more. What you have, what you think you have, what you spend it on, how much things cost, that's how much you're worth. That's what consumerism says. If you doubt me, turn on the TV. Watch one commercial, and you'll see. We live in a market society that saturates us. Saying you need this. You must have this. If you don't get the latest phone, the latest gadget, you're behind. If you don't eat all natural, pure green, purebred, organic zucchini, well, then you're not doing your part. We live in a culture that says more clothes, more fashion, better suits, better cars. It says consuming is the dream. That's what our world tells us. Our world tells us that consuming more is the dream. The more you consume, the better off you are, the more you're worth. But it is all a vapor. It's all a shadow. And when the sun comes, the vapor disappears and the shadows disappear. It will not last. We cannot build a foundation on vapors and shadows. You see, the dream for the Christian dream, is to glorify and serve God with all that we have and all that we are, and do so joyfully and excitedly and with everything that we have. With our bodies, with our wealth, with our home, with our food, with our mind, with our hearts, with our souls. That's the Christian dream. So what dream are we really chasing? Are we chasing the dream of the marketers that says, consume, consume, consume? Are we chasing the dream of the world, which is not based on God's plans and goals? Or are we chasing His? Has your heart been captured by the seller? Has your heart been captured by the enemy? Sometimes mine is. I'll admit that right here. Or is it in the hands of the Father? Is it time for a change? Is it time to open ourselves once more to those in need? To pour out ourselves, to pour out our lives in service to the one true King. Because the one King, the King of heaven, our captain, our commander, is the only one worth serving. This is something that we cannot do, we will not do by ourselves. And I implore you, as we talk more about the Christian dream next week, I implore you, I ask that you consider your life, that you consider where you're at and what can change, what can move, how you can change your perspective so that together we can change our actions, so that we can affect, so that we can move this world for God. Christ started with 12 men who had basically nothing and literally turned the world upside down. We're a congregation of 200, 215 plus with amazing talents, amazing abilities, with amazing wealth, with so much goodness and so much heart and so much kindness and so much love. You think we can't make a difference out here? I beg to differ. But it requires us giving our all. Letting go of what is called the quote-unquote American dream and grabbing hold of the Christian dream, the Christian goal. The goal of those who follow our one and only Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And for some of us, that will mean coming before Him and being buried with Him and raised a new creature so that we can serve Him as we ought. For some, that will mean going home and considering and praying. For some, that will mean becoming accountable to others. For all of us, that will mean coming together as the family that God has given so we can change this world for Him. Because we can. Because of what He has blessed us with. Let's stand and let's sing.